صل على مبيننا صل على محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Our dear viewers, and welcome to another episode on the life of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In this episode, like I said, we are going to continue on the topic we have started in our previous program, which we could not complete, and that is about the narration that is found in the book of Ibn Ishaq and others about a lady who was called Kirfa, who was brutally killed by a Muslim who is said to have been Qais in the company of Zayd radiallahu anhu. And we started talking about that topic, but time did not allow us to go into details. I am here in the studio with Ustaz Dembaba on my immediate right, and on my far right, Ustaz Rohan Ahmad. Gentlemen, assalamu alaikum and welcome to the program. Yeah, Ustaz Demba, we have covered the incident itself, and it narrated by Ibn Sa'd. And we have also talked about the Orientalists like Sir William Muir, his position on that, and the reason why even he included it in his book. And today we are going to look at other aspects of this, whether actually it did happen or it did not, and other variations of the same history, other narrations of the same history that are a little bit different from what Ibn Sa'd has narrated. But let's make clear one thing, whether this thing would have happened under the watch of this Sahaba who was said to be Zayd bin Harith.
Ustaz, thank you so much. A companion of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Hazrat Zayd bin Haritha radiallahu ta'ala anhu, who was a noble companion, who was basically trained in the Islamic way by the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam since he was young, and he turned to be a grown-up person, and he was sent in many sariyas by the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself. Some companions we have been mentioning in various programs that some raise, in fact, some points that Hazrat Zayd radiallahu ta'ala anhu should not be the commander, and like they were questioning the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Even after the passing of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Holy Prophet already prepared an army which was to go towards Iraq, and that army was led by, under the leadership of Hazrat Zayd bin Haritha radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Companions approached Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu to hold that army. A companion of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like Zayd radiallahu ta'ala anhu, who was trained by the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And of course, he got a son also, who was also during the lifetime of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was also prepared by the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to go to Iraq to face an army. But during his lifetime, this army didn't depart from Medina. The Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, and then companions approached Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu to reconsider holding that army, on which the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam wanted to go out, wanted that army should go to Iraq. But Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq said, no, who am I, the son of Abu Kuhafa, that I should withhold the army sent under the leadership of Hazrat Usama bin Zayd by the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I'm not going to do that. Just in saying this is just to emphasize how closely that companion was to the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, trained by the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And something like this, incident like this, would happen under his watch, or an incident like this will happen even in his absence, and yet he failed to do anything before reaching to the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I think if this incident would have happened if it would have happened, Hazrat Zayd himself would have addressed this incident well before they returned to Medina. But this was never mentioned in any of the narrations. So in a clear terms, that a lady like this was never killed by Hazrat Zayd radiallahu ta'ala anhu or his associate during this Sharia. And we are even told that this might be a Sharia which Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu was the commander, because in this very Sharia, the resemblance of this Sharia is like that which when Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq led the Muslims or the companions of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to the people of Banu Fuzara. And this Sharia, also there was a lady who was captured by that Hazrat Sulaiman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, Sulaiman bin Aqwa radiallahu ta'ala anhu, who was an archer and of course a trained runner for that matter. He captured that lady, and then that the lady was with a girl. The girl was presented to the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who in return sent her to Mecca to get some of the companions who were persecuted by the Meccans, or who were imprisoned by the Meccans. So we can see that both these narrations found themselves in the histories of Muslim books, but then they seems to be the same Sharia and under the leadership of Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu.
Yeah. Ustaz Damba, I think, Ustaz Rohan, let me comment before you. There's, Zayd was very close to the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. From Mecca to Medina, they were very close. People have even said the level of courage Zayd had to talk to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, others did not have that. Like he talked to him like freely, like you just walk into your father's room and say good morning. It was so easy for him. Even later on, some people narrated it was so easy for, Zayd's son to talk freely to the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and give him even advice on issues that others will not talk about. So we can say that this Zayd was well informed about the principles of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He brought him up almost about his principles, and he was well informed about the character of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because the two of them alone went to a place called Taif. And we know what happened in Taif. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was treated very badly. Both of them were pelted stones. And when they came to a distance, they hid themselves. And Zayd witnessed what happened there. The forgiving nature of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when the angel came to him and said, if you so desire, I can crush these people between these two mountains. He said, no. Perhaps their sons will one day accept this message of mine, that's the message of Islam. So we consider this Sahaba wouldn't have, there is no chance that this person would do this thing or would let this thing happen under his watch. So Ustaz Rohan, what else do you want to say there?
Yeah, rightly said. He was someone who could be considered as the family of the Prophet of Islam sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this incident reminds me of a narration. It says that once during a war, a woman got killed from the enemy side, and the Prophet of Islam found her body at the battlefield. So we don't know what the situation was, what resulted to the killing of that woman, but the Prophet of Islam was so much displeased at seeing that. And he emphatically states that from now onwards, I do not want to see this happening ever again. And Hazrat Zayd radiallahu anhu, as being that close to the Prophet of Islam who was always under his guidance, how could we accept that such an incident happened under his watch? So this is what just I wanted to highlight here.
Yeah, it is possible that that woman was, maybe in those days, if men are going to war, they are accompanied by women to cheer them up, sing them songs of praises, to push them forward into battle. It is possible that that woman was killed during the process of fighting, but no one exactly know who killed her. And I think that narration is found in Sunan Ibn Majah, where the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told a Sahaba, it is narrated that he told a Sahaba, when he saw that people were gathering at some place, he told the Sahaba, go and see what they are looking at there. So the Sahaba came back to the Prophet ﷺ and reported. The hadith said, فَجَاءَ فَقَالَ عَلَى الْإِمْرَأَةِ قَتِيلَ. It is about a woman who was killed. The Holy Prophet ﷺ said, مَا كَانَتْ هَذِهِ لِتُقَاتِلْ. It could mean it wasn't for this woman to fight, or this woman was not engaged in combat. Yeah. So the Prophet ﷺ said, فَقَالَ لِبَعْدِ أَصْحَابِهِ إِلْحَقْ بِخَالِدِ بْنِ وَلِيدٍ فَلَا تَقْتُلَنَّ ذُرِّيَّةً وَلَا عَسِيفًا. And the Prophet ﷺ said to some of the Sahabas, go to Khalid ibn Walid and tell him, do not kill women or children. This was a clear-cut commandment. So that woman was killed. It could be a mistake. It could be the battle was hot, like you don't know what's coming on the left or right. Yeah. Sometimes they just swing their swords and they kill. It could have happened like that. But the Prophet ﷺ was not happy with seeing that woman in the battlefield, laid there dead. And then he gave clear-cut commandment. And we could say that these things must have happened when Zayd was there. So how will it be that this Sahaba would, go against the words of the Prophet ﷺ? And even though it is not said that he did it, but it is done under his watch. So I don't think anybody will accept that.
And even it is possible that this woman who was killed by her own people, because sometimes when war is tense, you don't know who to touch and how are you going to touch them. So both ways are possible. And we imagine that the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who will see a camel in a garden which is not taken good care of, he will call for the owner of that camel and he will rebuke him and then order him to take good care of the camel. He will see companions taking the small birds from their nest or the eggs from their nest, and he will order them to return these young ones where they got it from. We will see the Holy Prophet ﷺ will advise that if you are branding a donkey, avoid the face, or you do it in such a manner that it should not in any way harm the donkey. So we have seen all these scenarios, and all these things is mentioned in hadith, is mentioned in Islamic histories, is mentioned even by historians who are not necessarily Muslims. But then such an incident is mentioned, or it found itself in some Islamic history or historians' books. We believe that incident have happened at the time of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, and the Holy Prophet ﷺ in no narration rebuked Hazrat Zayd radiallahu ta'ala anhu, or the one who did it under the watch of Hazrat Zayd radiallahu ta'ala anhu. It will be strange to see such an incident mentioned or not mentioned by the Holy Prophet ﷺ. 2 to 3 years before his death, this incident happened, and it is not mentioned that the Holy Prophet ﷺ have rebuked his companion or the commander himself, and it is just left like that. It will be strange, and I think that's why we said this does not happen. It may be that the lady was imprisoned and then sent back to Medina by Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu under his command, and the girl was sent to Medina in return to get the prisoners or the captive.
To Mecca.
Yes, to Mecca, yes. The girl, possibly she was sent to Mecca by the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and in exchange for the prisoners or the captives from the Muslim side, and they returned to Medina. That is possible.
Jazakumullah Ustaz. And we have seen that the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam even rebuked a Sahaba who killed a non-Muslim. They happened to engage in a combat, and the Muslim overpowered the non-believer, and he recited the kalima. Nonetheless, the person killed him. So when that was narrated to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was so upset and said, why did you kill him? Did you open his heart to see whether he said the kalima out of fear or out of pure intentions? And in some narrations it is said that he told the Sahaba, what are you going to do with that La ilaha illallah? He recited, there is none worthy of worship except Allah. And we have seen also that even in combat, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam will give specific instructions. Ustaz Ruhan, I think you take us through a bit of those specific instructions, which include also the cutting of trees and killing of anything, that is a living being.
Okay, Jazakallah. Yes, concerning the discussion concerning war, the Prophet of Islam, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not once, not twice, but multiple times, whenever any group of companions, they were going for expedition, the Prophet of Islam, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, would give them guidance. And most of the times, he will remind them, he will tell them to be cautious of certain things. And among those things would be that you don't have to fight or kill women, you don't have to kill children, and you also have to avoid those who are the religious leaders and who call upon Allah the Almighty, or who call upon their God, who preach their religion. So all those people who are not directly participating in war should be avoided, should not be fought against. And up to the extent that the Prophet of Islam said, we should not cut down trees. And this shows that how cautious the Prophet of Islam was concerning war. So then, speaking of the other part, as we are discussing, like brutally killing a lady, a woman, and
an old lady for
an old lady for that matter, yes. And instead of imprisoning her, giving a punishment which is nowhere to be found in the history of Islam, that anyone was punished like that. So it completely goes against the injunction, the teachings of the Prophet of Islam, and obviously there is no authentication concerning that event which is narrated. And unfortunately, because since Islam is such a perfect religion, and the guidance given by the Prophet of Islam are so perfect that the opponents cannot find a single stain on it. So they just try to cherry pick some certain things just to create fuss and demean the status of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Jazakumullah, Ustaz Rohan. I think the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I have a hadith here that said the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam commanded the Sahaba sometimes if they go out for battle. This is found in Muwatta, Imam Malik. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "La taqtulu nasama, wala taqta'u shajara." He said, "Do not kill any living being. It could be a human being or any other being. It could be their animals or otherwise." The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has ordered that even their animals, the animals of the enemy, should not be picked out and be killed randomly. Anything they have to kill there, it should be for food consumption. And the food also, once eaten, he ordered that do not take away anything. Eat to your satisfaction, but do not take along anything. So these were the commandments of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And in our previous program, we read a hadith. Also, that hadith is similar to this one that I have, where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would tell the companions and advise the army or the Sariya, the commander of the Sariya. He would tell them, "Ughzu bismillahi, wala taqtulu shaykhan faniyan, wala tiflan saghiran, wala imra'atan, wala taghullu wa aslihu wa ahsinu, inna Allaha yuhibbul muhsinin." The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would tell them, do not kill an elderly person, a child, or a woman. Do not be dishonest. Do good and behave kindly, for Allah loves those who do good. Therefore, we could say that either this Sariya was in the command of Hazrat Abu Bakr or it was in the command of Zayd. These two people were people who were very close to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they must have been there in the battle of Badr, the battle of Uhud, and all major, battles and all major events in the life of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And if they were there in the battle of Badr, they must have heard the commandment the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave, and it was delivered by one also a freed slave who was Bilal ibn Rabah. And sometimes he would send his uncle to deliver these messages. Sometimes Umar ibn al-Khattab will deliver these messages on behalf of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So these two people, whoever among them was the commander in that Sariyah, was someone very close to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Zayd was his freed slave. Abu Bakr was his companion even from childhood, before he was a prophet of Allah. And after he became a prophet of Allah, his favorite person, his most beloved person, was Hazrat Abu Bakr. So we cannot say that perhaps there is a reason why those who choose Zayd to be the commander here, we could see a reason. Maybe they were people who were jealous of his position and his closeness to the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And all the time the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we have seen in the 6th year after Hijrah, the 5th and 6th year after Hijrah, where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam will send him always out, in command of, a Sariyah, in command of a contingent of the Muslim army, going out to do some certain things. So this narration could have been there. Somebody could have picked him out to say he was the leader instead of Abu Bakr, because they know Abu Bakr, he is so timid, he is so mild in nature, he could not do that. So somebody could have picked him, even say he was the commander, just because of those kind of things that they were complaining about Zayd. Ustaz Damba, you have anything to?
I think if we look into this narration of Ibn Sa'd and Ibn Ishaq, we will come to understand one thing, that though they found themselves in Muslim historians' book, those narrations, but we will have to understand that rationally, if we analyze, we will know that this is not true. And also in written or record as well, if we check this, we will know that this is not true. This can be something that is fabricated, we can say, because rationally we know for a criminal will always be killed. Many people have been killed who were inciting violence before. We have the like of Ka'b, that was not hidden from anyone. Initially it was the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam advised the companions, told them that they can kill him for the maintenance of peace in the society, and they carried out this. Then this thing was recorded, and it was reported to the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he himself made some comment regarding that. So the like of many people, like the other guy who was, I forget his name, but he was also killed because he used to sing poems and then inciting violence also. Abu Afaq, something like that. Abu Afaq was also killed, and we understand that was also mentioned in books. So rationality will be that any criminal who is a warmonger, if they are captured in any society, they are punished. And the punishment which is going to be carried out, sometimes it will be made public to the people. Sometimes the government will make it, they will do it and then keep it secretly for peace, for the sake of peace. But then they are killed in a way that it should not in any way be in a form of mutilation and any other things. So if the Holy Prophet ﷺ was to order the companion to deal with this lady, it would not have been the way she was killed. She would have been killed, but not the way these people are ascribing the way she was killed. That rationality we will understand. In records, we understand that we have many Islamic books and 6 very authentic books after the Holy Quran. We have the 6 authentic books of Hadith. And this narration is only mentioned in Muslim and Abu Dawud, and the way they mention it is completely different from the way Ibn Sa'd and Ibn Ishaq mention it, because in Muslim it is mentioned that this lady and the girl was prison, and Abu Dawud, they were in prison and they were taken back to Medina. If further punishment were carried out, they are carried out. But it is not mentioned that this woman, this old lady, was killed in such a bad manner. That is contrary to what Ibn Ishaq and Ibn Sa'd narrated. The way they narrate things, these are the only two people a long period after the Holy Prophet ﷺ, and it's narrated in their books. Should we accept their own version, or the version that we saw in their books, or should we accept the version that which we have, the Imams who wrote them, the like of Imam Bukhari, who were very close at the time of the Holy Prophet ﷺ?
Yeah, even if you look at how these two you are comparing here, they have collected their material, you will see the difference. I remember you have mentioned here before when Imam Bukhari was given an information that there's someone from whom he could get a narration of the Prophet ﷺ. He went there, he saw that person using a container to get a horse or an animal, and he found out that the container was empty. So he thought, if this person can fool this animal, an animal that cannot speak, cannot do anything almost on its own, how about me? He could also fool me. So the steps that they took to collect these hadiths that are found in those books that are known as the six authentic books of collections of hadith, the toil they have done and the research that they have done, the time they have taken to record that, is far more than the historians we are talking about here. So when you put this thing side by side, you will see that the historians will not even count as compared to these collectors of hadith. Therefore, like you have mentioned, if this narration is mentioned by Muslim and Abu Dawud, those authentic books, and they are also mentioned in these two historian books, but the narrations, if they differ, then as a Muslim, as a historian, one must believe, or at least opt for, the one that is mentioned in these collections of hadith.
And I think the like of Hazrat Abu Huraira, radiallahu ta'ala, and who was always in the company of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sometimes he is hungry to an extent he will fall, just because of one thing. He don't want to miss any single word what is coming from the mouth of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He makes sure that he record all those things. So I wonder, people like him and others, how did they miss this incident? Because this kind of incident, when they happen, Hazrat Zayd must report to the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And reporting to the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we will have people like Abu Huraira sitting down, waiting to write something. So I wonder how it escaped this type of people, if it is so true.
That would be a question to ask maybe the Orientalists, who did not give us any evidence where that was mentioned, even in other narrations. And people like Ibn Ishaq and Ibn Sa'd also did not give us any authentication, anything to authenticate what they have said. Ustaz Ruhan, what else do you have to say on that?
Yeah, some others, they can come up with a question like, there's a possibility of this event to be different than to be the other one which happened. But then when we analyze everything, the event, it shows that they're actually the same events which two different personalities are talking about. And this can be noted from the descriptions that comes in these narrations, like it comes in the narrations that this expedition happened against Banu Fazara. And secondly, it also mentions that the chief of this Banu Fazara was an elderly lady. And both narrations also mentions the imprisonment of this specific lady. And it is mentioned in both of these narrations that this lady had a daughter, And both narration mentioned that this girl was given to Salma bin Aqwa radiallahu anhu. So all these things also clarifies to this fact that it is the same incident they are speaking about. But then what is mentioned in Sahih Muslim, it has given authentication, like all the references are intact. So from there on we can know that the other narration, which is differs in the details, is not something that we can rely on, because it has no like references or that cannot show the authentication of the incident.
Jazakumullah to you, Ustaz Rohan and Ustaz Demba. And I think one hadith I will just read to close our program today would be a hadith the Prophet ﷺ said. It is narrated by Ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma. Qala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He said, the Holy Prophet ﷺ is reported to have said, Man qatala usfuran fama fawqaha, whoever killed a sparrow or anything even bigger, bighayri haqqin, without any just cause, sa'alahu Allahu azza wa jalla anhu yawm al-qiyamah. God is going to ask about that on the day of judgment. So Muslims were taught specifically to not be killers, because a sparrow, it could be a small thing to you, but it is life. And once someone starts killing that, regardless of the life that it has, without any reason, that person will develop that to be a serial killer. Let's say you kill one, you kill two, you kill three. The next day you kill somebody's goat. The next day you kill someone's cow, and then you kill a camel. You start killing, and no one knows where it stopped. So the Prophet ﷺ tried to teach his companions the root cause of the problem. He tried to eliminate it, from there. And that, I think, was a teaching across. We have seen it in the Prophet ﷺ. You have mentioned here about birds, being merciful to birds and camels, and, branding of animals and the like. He was so merciful. And therefore, his companions could not be so ruthless to kill a woman, driving camels in opposite direction and killing an old woman in that manner. That is known for the Jahiliyyah period, but ever since Islam stepped in, that was history. So we cannot attribute that to the history of Islam. It would be totally false. Thank you very much to both of you. Dear viewers, this is all time allowed us to discuss on this topic of the life of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Until we come back here on another topic on the life of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for now, this is all time allowed us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Salli ala mubinina, salli ala Muhammadin, salli ala نبينا صل على محمد